Hi, I'm Pastor Kurt, and this is your 5-minute Bible study. Today, we're going to be looking at Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 through 30. This is often called the parable of the talents. Now, right away, we need to know what this word talent means. When we use the word talent, we usually think of it as a skill or something you're good at, like, hey, you're really talented, or we watch a talent show on TV to see what people can do. No, here a talent is a measure of money. In particular, one talent was worth 15 years worth of wages. So we're talking a lot of money here. In the story, this master entrusts a lot of money to his servants. 10 talents to one, 2 talents to another, and 1 to another, based on their ability, as the text says. Regardless of which one you are, you're still given a whole lot of money. And the master just gives it to them, right? They don't do anything to deserve it or earn it. He just gives it to them, which is kind of reckless, but that's how it works. Then he leaves. He gives them no instructions on what to do with it. They just have to figure that out. Well, we hear that the first 2 invest their talents, they make more money. In fact, both of them end up doubling what they have. The third guy with the 1 talent buries it in the ground. This is another case of how when we get a series of 3 things in a story, the third one's always different. Think about the Goldilocks story, right? Too hot, too cold, just right. The third thing is different. In this story, the third slave is different. He doesn't invest the money, he just buries it in the ground and saves it. Well, then the master comes back, and then the slaves show him what they've done with the money. When the first one says, hey, you trusted me with all this money, look, I doubled it. Then we hear that famous line, well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your master. This is the line that it seems like Christians want to hear God say to us. Sometimes I call this the divine attaboy. This is the compliment that we want God to say to us for a life well lived. Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your master. Sometimes we hear this in particular at funerals. When we're looking back on someone's life and how they've lived their life for God, we imagine God saying this to them. Well, but think about it. What is the master saying this for? When he says, well done, good and faithful servant, what's he complimenting the servant for? Typically, we think he's complimenting the servant for doubling the money, for getting a return on the investment, because that happens with the first 2 servants. What if he's complimenting them for actually doing something with the money? One interesting thought that I've had is, how would the master have reacted if, say, the second servant invested the money but then lost it all? Then the master returns and he says, well, master, you entrusted me with all of this money. I went out and I tried to do something with it and I lost it all. How would the master have responded? If the well done, good and faithful servant is based on getting a return on the investment, then the master wouldn't have said it. But if it's based on, hey, at least you did something with it, then that servant would have heard those words too. Of course, that doesn't happen in the story. It's just something fun to think about here. But then we get to the third servant, the one who just took his talent and buried it in the ground. Why? Why did he do that? Remember, they weren't given any instructions on what to do with this money. But this guy thought that his master was a harsh man, reaping where he didn't sow, all that kind of stuff. And so he's just giving him back the 1 talent, right? He didn't lose it. He's just giving the master back what belongs to him. Now, why in the world would this guy think the master was harsh? This master started off by giving this incredible amount of money to these servants. This was reckless. This was extravagant. This was generous. This wasn't harsh. Well, then the master basically says, well, you think that I'm harsh? Well, let me be harsh now. Take this guy's talent and give it to the one who has 10 talents. Then we get this weird line about those who have will be given more, and those who don't have, what they have will be taken away from them. This is not a comment about people who have a lot of money and people who don't have money. This is about, are you trustworthy or not trustworthy? The first 2 slaves showed that they were trustworthy, that they did something with what the master entrusted to them. So now the master knows, hey, I can trust you with more things. This other guy is not trustworthy. You know this in your own life. Sometimes people entrust you with things, they know that you follow through with them, and they trust you more. Or flip it around. You know that you trust certain people because they've proven themselves to be trustworthy, so you trust them with more. When you discover people who aren't trustworthy, you're not going to trust them with other things in your life, right? This parable of the talents reminds us that 1, God entrusts us with incredible resources. And 2, we're called to do something with them. We're called to take a risk. We're called to use what God has given to us for God's glory. Maybe we'll get a return on our investment, maybe not, but at least we'll do something with it. There's your 5-minute Bible study for the day. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.